June 30th, 1999. It was a quiet summer day in the countryside near St. Louis. Tall cornfields stretched across the land, moving gently in the warm wind. The area was peaceful, the kind of place where nothing unusual ever seemed to happen. But that day, something disturbing was waiting among the rows of corn. A farmer walking through a field near West Alton suddenly noticed something lying on the ground. At first, it looked like a pile of clothes, but as he walked closer, he realized it was something much worse. It was a body. The man immediately called the police. Soon, investigators arrived at the scene. They pushed through the tall corn stalks until they reached the spot where the body was found. The summer heat was heavy, and the air felt strangely still. The victim was later identified as Ricky McCormick, a 41-year-old man from St. Louis. At first glance, the case already felt strange. Ricky had been reported missing only a few days earlier. But what confused investigators was where his body was found. West Alton was about 25 miles away from his home. Ricky didn't own a car, and according to his family, he rarely traveled far from his neighborhood. So how did he end up here? The cornfield was remote. There were no houses nearby, no witnesses, no cameras, just silence. Investigators carefully searched the area, hoping to find clues, but there were no clear signs of a struggle, no weapon, no obvious evidence pointing to what had happened. It was as if Ricky had simply appeared there. Then officers searched his pockets. Inside, they found something small but extremely unusual: 2 pieces of paper. At first, they looked like random notes. But when detectives looked closer, they realized the pages were filled with strange groups of letters and numbers. The writing looked messy, rushed, almost frantic. Lines like weld NCBE sold NCBE paresi NWP. The words made absolutely no sense. It didn't look like English. It didn't look like a normal note. It looked like a code. Investigators immediately became interested. If Ricky had written these notes shortly before his death, they could be extremely important. The papers might contain a message, instructions, or even the name of someone involved. But there was a problem. No one could understand what the notes meant. Police showed them to several analysts, hoping someone would recognize a pattern. But every expert came to the same conclusion. The notes were encrypted. That meant Ricky had written them using some type of secret code. Now the mystery was growing deeper. Why would a man like Ricky carry coded messages in his pocket? Friends and family described him as a quiet person who lived a simple life. He struggled with health problems and often worked small jobs to get by. He wasn't known to be involved in anything complicated. But clearly, something strange was happening behind the scenes. Investigators began retracing Ricky's final days. According to his family, he had left home on June 25th and never returned. No one knew exactly where he was going, but police did discover something troubling. Ricky had occasionally been involved with small drug activity in the past. That didn't mean he was deeply connected to criminals, but it opened the possibility that he might have met the wrong people. Still, nothing clearly explained. The coded notes. Who was the message meant for? Was Ricky trying to hide information from someone, or was he trying to protect himself? Detectives carefully placed the 2 coded papers into evidence bags. They knew these notes might be the most important clue in the entire investigation. But, to understand them, they needed help. So the case was sent to one of the most powerful investigative organizations in the world, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The FBI had experts who specialized in breaking codes used by criminals and spies. If anyone could solve the mystery of the strange letters, it would be them. But what investigators didn't realize yet was that these 2 small pieces of paper were about to become one of the most puzzling code mysteries in modern criminal history, because even the FBI would soon discover something shocking. The message inside Ricky McCormick's pockets might be almost impossible to decode, and until someone understands those strange letters, the truth about what happened in that quiet cornfield may remain hidden forever. When the mysterious notes from Ricky McCormick reached the Federal Bureau of Investigation, investigators believed the puzzle would eventually be solved. After all, the FBI had some of the best cryptography experts in the world. They had decoded messages from organized crime groups, drug cartels, and even international spies. Breaking codes was something they had done many times before. But this case was different. The notes were sent to the FBI's Cryptanalysis and Racketeering Records Unit, a special team responsible for analyzing secret messages found in criminal investigations. The experts began studying the papers carefully. The writing looked unusual. Short groups of letters appeared again and again. Some lines were separated by parentheses and numbers. For example, one section looked like this: 74. TFRN NPPI Benisi PRSE NWP. At first glance, it looked random, but experienced codebreakers know that most codes follow patterns, so the team began analyzing the message. They looked for repeating letter combinations, which often reveal hidden words. They tested substitution ciphers, where each letter represents another letter. They even ran the text through computer programs designed to break encrypted messages. But nothing worked. The message refused to reveal its meaning. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Still no progress. Eventually, investigators began asking an important question. What if the code didn't follow normal rules? To answer that question, they needed to learn more about Ricky himself. Detectives interviewed his friends and family again. That's when they discovered something interesting. According to people who knew him, Ricky sometimes wrote strange notes filled with letters and symbols. He had developed a type of personal shorthand that only he seemed to understand. In other words, the code might not be a professional cipher at all. It might simply be Ricky's own private system of writing. That possibility created a huge problem. Most codes can be broken if you understand the system used to create them. But if the system exists only in the writer's mind, decoding it becomes extremely difficult. Investigators also learned that Ricky had limited education and had struggled with learning disabilities throughout his life. This meant the notes might not follow logical grammar or spelling rules. The letters might represent sounds instead of words, or they might be abbreviations of something only Ricky knew. The deeper investigators looked into the code, the more confusing it became. Some experts believed the notes could contain addresses or locations. Others thought they might describe drug transactions or meetings. But none of these theories could be proven. Years passed. The case slowly grew cold. The coded notes remained locked inside evidence files. Then in 2011, the FBI made an unusual decision. They decided to release the encrypted notes to the public. It was the first time the agency had ever asked the world to help decode evidence in a murder investigation. Professional cryptographers, mathematicians, puzzle enthusiasts, and amateur codebreakers all began studying the mysterious letters. Online forums filled with theories. Some people believed the code used simple abbreviations. Others suggested it might be based on street slang or local language. But, despite thousands of attempts, no one could crack the message. The strange letters in Ricky McCormick's pockets remained silent, and without understanding that message, investigators were still missing the most important clue in the case. A clue that might explain how Ricky died, and who was responsible. More than 20 years have passed since the body of Ricky McCormick was discovered in that lonely cornfield near West Alton. Yet the mystery remains unsolved. Investigators still believe that Ricky's death was suspicious. The location where his body was found raises serious questions. Ricky had no reason to be in that area. He had no car, and he rarely traveled far from his neighborhood in St. Louis. This has led investigators to suspect something important. Ricky may not have died in the cornfield. His body may have been moved there later. If that theory is true, someone might have transported him to the location and left him there, hoping the case would never be solved. But then there are the notes. Those two pieces of paper remain the most mysterious part of the entire case. Investigators believe Ricky wrote them just days before his death. The notes might contain a message about where he was going, who he was meeting, or what he was involved in. If the code could be solved, it might reveal a timeline of Ricky's final hours. Some experts think the notes could describe locations, or routes, possibly directions to certain places. Others believe the letters might represent names of people, and if that is true, the code might literally contain the identity of someone connected to Ricky's death. Imagine that. A murder mystery, where the victim himself may have written a message that could reveal the truth. But the message is locked, inside a code that no one understands. The Federal Bureau of Investigation still keeps the case open. From time to time, new cryptography experts study the notes again. Technology has improved over the years, and modern computers are capable of analyzing patterns much faster than before. But even today, the code remains unsolved. Some cryptographers believe the message might never be decoded without understanding Ricky's personal shorthand system. Others remain hopeful that one day someone will notice a small detail that everyone else missed. Because history has shown that sometimes the biggest mysteries are solved by unexpected people. Until that day comes, the strange letters in Ricky McCormick's pocket remain one of the most puzzling unsolved codes in criminal history. Somewhere inside those symbols could be the truth. A truth that has been hidden for more than 2 decades. A truth that might finally explain what really happened on those quiet summer days in 1999. And perhaps, one day, someone will read those strange letters and realize that Ricky McCormick left behind one final message. A message from the past, a message waiting to be understood. And when that message is finally decoded, it might change everything we know about this mysterious death.